Welcome back to Kerbal Space Program. Today's episode is unfortunately going to be very short and very condensed, in which we are going to start building our next generation interplanetary craft, which will also act as a power station in orbit of Joule. Many of you will recognize the core module from our failed EVA mission, and here is the second part, which you will definitely recognize as a laboratory part of the same mission, but we've done a little improvement to it. We moved the antimatter container directly to the laboratory. So now we can actually produce antimatter and hopefully even use it. So let's go for the docking with this part, and after we're done docking of this one, we'll start launching our antimatter reactors. So here it goes, nice and smooth. And done. So let's move to the next part, which is going to be the first antimatter reactor. So let's wait until station is almost directly overhead, and let's launch, go into the orbit, and directly on our ascent we get an encounter, which will later refine into very close encounter, which we can use for docking. If we're going to make it with this ship, we will be able to actually leave it in the orbit of Joule, where it will be able to collect antimatter from the Joule's magnetic field and also produce antimatter by the means of this laboratory. In the end, it will produce gigawatts upon gigawatts of power, which will be able to beam across Joule system and power up our craft, which will hopefully be able to land on all of the Joule's moons and will get enough science to complete our tech tree. So here is our docking. The only thing I'm a little bit concerned about is that maybe antimatter container has to be connected directly to the reactor, because, well, how would you handle the moving of antimatter between reactor and container? So maybe we'll have to do yet another change to this build between this episode and next one. But if we have to do it, I'll do it off camera. Basically, I'll just swap the fission reactor to the sides of the craft and place the antimatter reactor directly below the laboratory and the containment device. So let's unfurl our radiators and we'll see that they are working. Duh. But really, let's unfurl the radiators and then we will be able to start our fission reactor, transfer a couple of Kerbal nodes in the laboratory and start producing antimatter. So let's take one of our Kerbal nodes. For example, this guy. Doesn't really matter, as I understand. It's only research, which is dependent on the stupidity of Kerbals, and production of antimatter does not depend on this factor. So let's move him to the reactor and let's restart it. Now we're going to put him in the laboratory and we can move the second guy to the same place. So let's do that and I'll see you when I'm done. So our Kerbal nodes are safely tucked in the laboratory. Let's deactivate the antimatter reactors, check if the fission reactor is working and it is producing power. Yep, it does. Let's activate its generator and deactivate generators which are not needed. And let's start producing antimatter. And immediately we see that we are producing 27.6 milligrams per day, which is exactly what we need. Unlike the last time, we're actually producing stuff. That means that we will be able to use this craft in Jules orbit, but that will happen in further episodes. For now, thank you all for watching. Remember to like, dislike and comment this video in the section below. My name is Darlock, and I will see you next time. Goodbye!